Hello, back to the College Football Pick'em Pod, Week 6 picks. I'm so excited for this week, so excited to get the taste of last week out of my mouth. That was disgusting. I said it last week when we were making picks. There just weren't that many picks I really liked. Not the case this week. I'm ready to go. I had a miserable, brutal 3-7 last week.
Yeah.
And not 3-7 where I scraped by to get 3. Like I had 5 pretty much looking good and took some just really brutal beats. It was one of those weeks where everything went wrong across the entire board of sports for me, especially football. Going 3-7. Both my fantasy teams lose the next day. I knew they would. Both my survivor pool picks in the NFL go out the next day. Just one of those wacky weeks where you think you have everything figured out, everything's looking good, and then it all goes to shit. So, yeah. But that's over. That week's over, and guess what? I withstood it. I'm at $200 still. I'm ready to go. I have some really good picks this week. I think this is the week I get back way up. So, how are you feeling?
I mean, I've given up on saying that I'm ever going to get back. I just assume I'm not going to get back. I've moved on to the NFL, still number 5 in Betting Pros accuracy competition out of 152 people. Wow. After this miserable week where Will lost 2 of his eliminators and so many people had such bad weeks. I know Sharps had bad weeks. I know Public had bad weeks. I went 7-6. I'm 6-2 money line dogs for the NFL right now.
Hey, so quit talking NFL.
I'm feeling really good about that. No. I'm going to get this all out of my system because we don't need to know what I'm doing in college football right now, okay? Because I am doing so well in that, and everything is breaking right for me in the NFL. Jaguars come back and win. That's who I picked. You know, we have the Lions who look great against the Chiefs. That's who I picked. I had the Lions money line against the Eagles the week before. That's who I picked. I picked the Penn State Maryland over at 60, lost it by a point. Picked the Texas Tech Oklahoma over at 71.5, lost it by half a point. Half a point and 1 point. I got 2 overs wrong, but I combined 1.5. So I'm going to talk NFL as much as I damn well please because the college football landscape right now is making me nauseous. It's making me sick to my stomach. I can't handle Saturdays anymore. I went 4-8 this week. Better percentage than Will, but it's just ripping me apart. I can't do it anymore. I only have 7 bets this week. Maybe I'll hop on one more with Will. This might be a one-man show moving forward, Will.
Phil, come on, man. You can't let 1 week get you down like that. So, I mean, I know I'm sitting a little bit prettier than you because I had some other good weeks before that, and you're just kind of slowly bleeding. But this is the week to get back. This is the week where things get right again. I have a theme for this week, and it doesn't sound like a good theme when you say it out loud, but it is my theme of the week, and it is road favorites. You know that expression, home dogs? This is the exact opposite, road favorites. So we'll get into it. But, yeah, don't get down, Phil. Don't get down.
I'm down.
It was a tough week for everybody. I had the Stanford Oregon State under, and Phil had actually marked it in as a win for me. It was 21-7 going into the fourth quarter. Over under is at 58 points. Not good.
Not good. It ends up tied 28-28 at one point. So
Stanford gives up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, Oregon State, but they too themselves score a touchdown. So it's 28-28, sitting at 56, which means if the tie is ever broken, it goes to over. Stanford kicks a field goal. Goes to 31-28, total at 59 points on a 58 over-under. That should never have gone over.
And the 2 big dogs that I had were UVA and USC, and both of them should have covered their games. UVA was covering the entire time and then falls apart at the end. USC, that was frustrating for a football
They had chances to, like, they should have, like, won that game, you could argue. And they didn't even cover. They had so many chances to cover. I was on that too. Just, like, mind-numbing games, especially that Northwestern Wisconsin game. Oh my God, it made me want to just rip my brains out. I couldn't decide. I was on the over and Wisconsin covering, and it kept flipping back and forth. Like, both are possible, one's possible. I didn't know what to root for, and then eventually it winds up like not going over. Wisconsin doesn't cover. I'm sitting there just like, what did I just watch?
That was a brutal letdown game for Wisconsin. Brutal. I mean, I figured they'd have a letdown of a first half. It was the second half they sucked. They were terrible in the second half.
They
Absolutely
were better
horrible.
in the second half than they were in the first half, though.
I know.
7-3 at halftime. My over really never stood a chance, but it actually was looking okay once that pick six really helped. Oh man, but that was another game that just I'm speechless with that game. Both teams looked like they didn't want to win.
Yeah, I know this is a Canes Insight sponsored podcast, but FSU winning by more than 5 was like my thank God of the week. I was sitting there, and for the first time in my life, I was rooting for FSU because I needed this bet so freaking bad. Because otherwise, I'm 3-9, and how do I even show my face around you people? I can't do it. I had a worse percentage than you, Will.
That's fine. We're okay. Let's get into this. Let's put that behind us. Let's get into week 6. Like I said, I'm loving a lot of these picks. You got anything on Thursday?
I do not have anything on Thursday, Will. I think you're going to be running the show here because I have so few games, and then when we get to the Miami game, I'll do our sponsor. But because I have so few games and you seem to like it, I think you're going to run the show. So for the first time ever, I won't just talk over you if you want to jump into the Friday games or if you have anything on Thursday.
I got the game that I assume you have as well on Friday, the UCF Cincinnati game.
-4.
This is fitting with the theme, kicking off the theme strong here. UCF is going on the road, and they are favorites, but only by 4 points. And, I get they lost a Pitt. I get they didn't cover against UConn last week. What was that spread last week?
It was like 47. They won by
it was in the 40s.
They won by like 40 or 39 or something like that. And also they were winning the game like 49-0 at one point.
Yeah. So what? They don't cover that. And so you go from 40 points to 4 points. And obviously UConn and Cincinnati are two different teams. But out of the teams in the AAC that are really going to give UCF a test, I'm not sure Cincinnati is the team. I think they're supposed to be the team. But from what I've seen of Cincinnati this season, there's no reason for me to think that they won't just get blown out by UCF, who I always say this, when UCF wins, they blow teams out, and I'm very confident UCF will win this game. So 4 points is way too
It's a
low.
huge overreaction to this.
Very big overreaction.
Yeah.
So I've got 20 on this. I mean, let's see, Cincinnati has played Marshall, Miami, Ohio, and UCLA. Those are their wins. And so who have they really beaten that I'm like, wow, they can take it to UCF? I don't think that's the team. I think the Tulane game is going to be where UCF can trip up. They have to go to Tulane. It's going to be on the road. And that might be, again, where we look to maybe not ride this UCF train every single week. But this is my don't overthink it. UCF's the much better team. Who cares if they're going on the road? 4 points, way too low.
Yeah, I have $20 on this as well. I think it's too easy. UCF lost to Pittsburgh, but they almost lost to Pittsburgh last year. Pittsburgh gets up for UCF. UCF beats everybody else bad. Cincinnati sucks. I mean, I don't care that they beat Marshall 52-14, beat Miami, Ohio 35-13, beat UCLA 24-14. We watched that UCLA-Arizona game last week. UCLA is not a college football team. Like they might lose at the high school level right now. And then the one game they play.
Same with Arizona.
The same with Arizona. And then the one game that Cincinnati plays, they play against Ohio State and they lose 42-0. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think UCF is just too good on the defensive end. They're going to be able to shut down Cincinnati. There's no way Cincinnati's going to be able to keep up. Cincinnati's defense isn't good enough to stop the UCF offense. So I think UCF covers this easily. If I'm ever getting less than a touchdown for UCF against a team that I think is worse than them, I take UCF all the time. So I put 20 on this as one of my 7 bets. Feel like this is one that you just can't miss. You just can't not do it.
You can take this to the bank. I mean, even if this were at like 10 points, I would feel pretty good. So for it to be a 4, sign me up. Road favorite. Love it.
Love it. Friday night, gonna finally give me some good luck, huh? Finally, maybe.
This is the week, man. I'm telling you, this is a really nice. Just everything's gonna work out well this week. I'm really feeling good. I'm spraying some bets.
Yeah, I hear you. One game I want to talk about that I'm not sure you have a bet on, but I think it's an interesting game that we should at least bring up. Utah State going to LSU. Do you have anything on that?
I do.
Okay,
Let me get into this here. So LSU had a bye week last week. But I've been saying on the podcast now, I think a couple weeks, is that we have to start looking at this LSU team differently. They're the high-tempo, high-powered offense who's going to throw the ball. They're going to put up a ton of points. They're like the Oklahoma. They're like the Ohio State. And the spread is what, 28?
It's 27 now.
27. Yeah. I still think it's too high, especially against a Utah State team that is pretty good. So my play here is on the over. It's set at 72.5. And that might sound a little high, but LSU, they just put up points, and their defense is actually not looking like a typical LSU defense. And I think the reason for this is because their offense just scores quickly and puts them right back on the field. So they're just getting winded. They have more time to play on defense. And when your team is so good at scoring, you don't have that extra motivation to make the tackle, to prevent the guy from scoring. So if they give up a touchdown, it's like no big deal. Your offense have already put up 5 touchdowns. So I just think the combination of LSU's really high-powered offense and then their defense kind of not needing to perform at that high SEC gritty level that we're used to seeing, I think they're able to give up points. And Utah State can put up points. I'm not really worried.
Yeah, Jordan Love is a really solid quarterback.
Yeah. And like you look at LSU, what they've done defensively so far, they gave up 38 points to Texas, which that's not terrible, but it's still a lot of points. But they also gave up 38 points to Vandy, and that was a blowout. That was one where I had LSU, I think, like minus 23.5 or minus 24. They cover and still give up 38 points. So I just feel really good about this over. I see LSU, let's see, their point totals this year, 55, 45, 65, 66. So if they get into the 50s or 60s, I really think that, I mean, there's no reason why Utah State won't get into the 20s or 30s. So I really like this over. I've got 15 on it, 72.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if I was going to have to bet on this game and I was going to have to pick a side of the spread, I'm probably picking Utah State. I think Utah State is easily the second best team LSU has faced this year. And I think they're going to put up enough points that 4 touchdowns is a lot. I mean, even if LSU scores 56 points, I think that this is a team that could score in the 30s against LSU. Like, I just see this, like you said, like even if LSU gets out to a big lead and it's a huge blowout, they're going to give up points to Utah State at some point throughout the game. But then again, I said the same exact thing about Maryland last week, and what the hell do I know? So that's what I was surprised you have something on this game, but I thought it was an interesting one to discuss.
Yeah, and like you said, even if LSU gets to a big lead and then gives up touchdowns late, that's good for the over, and I'm not going to be worrying about like a point here or there spread-wise. Like I just need points from anybody, and I think in a game like this, LSU can easily blow them out, and it's like 66-17, or it can be maybe a closer, like 2 or 3 touchdown game that LSU doesn't cover, but it would still go over. So in either way, I see the total going over.
Yeah, I agree with that. What else you got? What's your next game?
Let's take it to Rutgers. Rutgers, they lost their coach, and I was trying to actually rationalize, like losing Chris Ash, they're playing for their, interim coach. Is that going to, change motivations or how they play? And I really couldn't talk myself into anything because it's still Rutgers, and actually not having a coach probably hurts them. And they're playing Maryland, who just got walloped by Penn State, as you mentioned, and sort of how Michigan got spanked by Wisconsin. They use Rutgers as that get-right game. And this is a get-right week for me. So I'm assuming Maryland here is going to get right against Rutgers. Again, this is a road favorite. Maryland's favored by 13.5. Is it still at 13.5, or is it gone up to 2 touchdowns? 13.5. I got 20 on this. When you don't score any points in a week, like Maryland just put up a goose egg, you got to let the floodgates open a bit on a weaker defense. So I don't see any reason why Rutgers is going to put up a fight against Maryland, even though Maryland got beat 59-0. They're not on the same level of miserableness as Rutgers. So I feel pretty darn good. I got 20 on this one. I really do feel good that Maryland should be able to score. And Maryland Rutgers are kind of like sister teams. They both came into the Big Ten at the same time. There is just a little bit of a rivalry in that regard, and I think Maryland is going to take care of business.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bet this, but you convinced me. I put 15 on Maryland minus 13.5. I hate the Maryland Terrapins. I am going to go on the record and say I hate the strong four-letter word hate the Maryland Terrapins. Score one freaking point, good offense. It's like if your last name is Jackson and you're a quarterback in the NFL or college, you can score all these points against the worst teams in the world. But as soon as you play a good team, you just don't know how to play quarterback anymore. Don't worry, I'm not speaking on Lamar. Yes, I am speaking on Lamar. Lamar Jackson, Josh Jackson, they have these great opening weeks. Everybody believes they can score points. They finally start to play some real good teams, and all of a sudden their teams aren't even in the games. And that Maryland-Penn State game, I don't even know if Maryland had the ball on Penn State's side of the field the entire time. It was horrible. I could not believe what I was watching. I needed a field goal. A field goal. Come on, a field goal. That's all I needed. I hate this team. But anytime you go to the RAC, you go to Rutgers, you play in this crazy, crazy home field environment where all these people forget that there's a game and they're just walking around campus instead. It's a really crazy environment. Most people probably, if they're smart, if you're at Rutgers and you're smart, you're just sitting in the parking lot drinking alcohol, watching it on whatever channel it's on, and then you can just flick back and forth between that and whatever game is actually entertaining, so you don't have to deal with the misery. I'm sure there might be 5 or 6 fans who cheer for the new Rutgers head coach, whose name I'm sorry I do not know. But yeah, it's got to be Maryland here. Maryland has to get right. Josh Jackson has to put on a performance. And as much as I hate the Maryland Terrapins, they have to be better this week because they're playing a bad team, and that's when Josh Jackson excels. That's when he looks like Tom Brady, not against the Bills, but Tom Brady in general. He just goes wild when he plays these terrible, terrible football teams. And Maryland has their whole 79 thing because of their player who passed away, and they want to put up 79 points, and they were able to put up 79 points in their first 2 games. I think they put up 79 here again against Rutgers. Rutgers is terrible, and if they put up 79, I can tell you one thing: Rutgers ain't scoring 65. So I like Maryland here. I only got 15 on it because, man, did I get burned last week by Maryland. But, God, they got to get it right this week. They just got to get it right.
Yeah, part of this for me also is seeing the Michigan Rutgers score just go up and up. We're watching the other games that are a bit closer, and just seeing that Michigan Rutgers score just go up and up and up and up and up, and I'm not on it. It's like, that's my baby. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be left out on another Rutgers blowout. It makes me sad. It's like, man, what was I thinking not taking Michigan? Of course Michigan was going to explode against Rutgers after Wisconsin. Just a complete oversight on my part, and I want to apologize to you, Phil, and to the listeners for not hopping on that last week. It won't happen again. I apologize. So back on the Rutgers train we go. I've got 20 on it. I'm feeling really good.
Okay, I like it. Another game that's an interesting Big Ten matchup here, which actually this one is an interesting Big Ten matchup. We have a top 25 matchup between Iowa and Michigan. Iowa's going to the Big House. Will, do you have a read on this game? Because I have a read, and it's probably wrong, but I want the listeners to be able to hear somebody who's still hovering around that 200 number first before I come in and tarnish everything.
My read is that I am staying away from this game. Michigan is a conundrum. They're a tough team to bet. When you're looking for teams to bet, you want to look for consistency, teams that you can rely on to play a certain way, to do a certain thing. And I haven't gotten that from Michigan in the past 2 or 3 seasons. They look really good at times. They look terrible at times. Iowa is undefeated, right? Like, Iowa's
really going to continue to be undefeated after this week.
You think Iowa's winning this? And I have no reason to doubt you, but Michigan at home, Harbaugh is getting more and more to play for each week. As everyone's breathing down his neck. This one could go either way. What is it? 3.5 is the last I saw it. If anything, I would probably take Iowa plus 3.5 instead of money line. Are you sprinkling on the money line here?
No. I have no money, so I'm going 15 on Iowa plus 3.5. But I think they win this football game. I know Iowa State isn't very good this year. That is Iowa's best win, and Iowa State isn't very good. But that's a rivalry game. They got through the rivalry game with an 18-17 win. Michigan has looked terrible when they play even remotely good teams. They only beat Army 24-21. They should have lost that game. They lost to Wisconsin so bad. It was never a game. Good for you putting up 52 points on Rutgers. You and I could do that, Will. Iowa beat Rutgers 30-0. They beat
You and I? Northern Illinois?
No. Will and I. Will and Phil. And then you go over here, and I mean, you and I probably could do it at this point. Michigan beat Middle Tennessee week 1, 40-21. Iowa just beat them 48-3. And I know that's just a lot of scoreboard watching, but what I think this tells me from everything I've seen from Iowa this year is Iowa's not going to give up points to offenses that are bad. And Michigan's offense, despite putting up 52 points against Rutgers, is bad this year. Like, I don't get what is wrong with their offense. And I think Iowa's defense is really good and keeps Michigan under 20. And if they're keeping Michigan under 20, I don't see any reason why Iowa doesn't cover this. Iowa's going to get their points against Michigan, I feel like. I'm predicting like a 2017 game, maybe. It could be even more. Like, I could see Iowa jumping out to an early lead and never relinquishing it in this game. But I really like Iowa plus 3.5. I think Michigan is, if their name wasn't Michigan, we don't see them in the top 25. We're not talking even about Michigan. But because their name is Michigan and because they have Jim Harbaugh, who is so good at getting quarterbacks to be great, which we've seen completely in his tenure at Michigan, they're ranked and there's all this hype around them. And every year they disappoint. And I think this is just another one of the disappointments in this game. And maybe they win it, but they're not winning it by more than a field goal, I don't feel. So I got Iowa plus 3.5.
And something you didn't mention there that goes for your case is that Michigan's supposed to have this really good defense, and we haven't seen it yet. They looked soft in that Wisconsin game. I mean, they were missing tackles. They weren't making the right reads. They got blown by what Wisconsin ran the ball just at will. They just shoved it down their throats, and it was 35-0 at one point. I'm pretty sure, or at least 28-0. So their defense worries me. I think their offense does have a chance to get it together. It's yet to be seen, though. I mean, we saw it against Rutgers, but like you said, that doesn't count. We expect Maryland to do a lot against Rutgers, and they scored 0 points against Penn State last week. This is just a game where I look at it, and it just scares me. I can see it going either way. I can see Iowa winning by 10 points in a blowout, kind of like what you're saying. But I could also see Michigan, at home. Iowa's not this big. Are they ranked? They should be ranked.
They're ranked. Yeah, they're ranked.
So it's the ranked team, but they're not, Ohio State or Wisconsin or Penn State or one of these more.
They're actually ranked higher than Michigan. They're 14. Michigan's 19.
Right, and I just think that this is such a good opportunity to show the world that you're headed in the right direction if you can beat Iowa at home, because they are ranked, and like I'm saying, it's not one of these really high-profile Big Ten teams. So, I mean, motivation-wise, Michigan has every reason in the world to come out and just play their best brand of football. And I don't know what that looks like, but I can see them winning this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win by 2 touchdowns. That wouldn't surprise me either, but again, that's why I'm staying away from this game completely, because I can see this game going a variety of ways.
I would be surprised if Michigan wins this game by more than 3 points. I seriously would. I would be surprised because Michigan is not good. Michigan is just not – This is why I hate preseason rankings, and I don't know if they exist for a reason, but I hate preseason rankings because teams start off in the top 10 that aren't top 10 teams. And we were joking about this the other night when Ohio State was playing against Nebraska. What a great game that was. Nebraska is so dangerous, everybody. Oh, I'm so scared of Nebraska. But – you sit there and you watch.
Yeah, that's a road test.
That's a road test.
First big test of the season.
This is going to be the game they lose. Yeah, okay. Nebraska starts the season ranked number 25. They might not be in the top 100 in the nation. They're so bad. But there's these preseason rankings which skew everything. And right now, with how Michigan has played, if we started the season and all things were really equal, like the NCAA claims, if all things were really equal, Michigan would not be ranked. Michigan would not be even close to being ranked. They probably wouldn't even be one of the others receiving votes because every game that they've played, they have not looked good except for against Rutgers. And if beating Rutgers bad is the only reason you should be ranked, then every team in the country would be ranked because everybody can beat the crap out of Rutgers. So I hate preseason rankings. I think they're stupid, and I think Michigan is really benefiting from it right now. So them even being favored in this game, makes me feel like it's more because of just hype going into the season, because we're still only going in. This is only the 5th game for each of these teams. So we're still relatively early. We're not into the back half of the season yet. Teams still haven't really explained who they are because we haven't gotten completely into conference play. But I love Iowa in this game. I love it. If I had more money, I'd be throwing 20 on it, but I got no money left, Will. I just got no money left.
All right, man. Well, I mean, I like the claim. I will say with preseason rankings, there are a couple things I do like about them, and I think there's a way that they can be handled differently because they come out and it's awesome, it's hype, it's something to talk about, gets you pumped up for college football. That's what I like about it. I also like kind of what you're saying, just from a betting standpoint and looking at these games. I think you can find value in teams that are overranked, like you're doing with Michigan right now. And so that's a fun way to be like, this team shouldn't be ranked this high, but it's because they started, in the top 25 for absolutely no reason. It's just based on nothing. And it could really be fixed in a big way is if instead of adjusting whatever preseason ranking you have after seeing the first game, you just re-rank after what you've actually seen. So like if you have teams in the top 25, let's say you have a team like 15 and you have an unranked team, they play in week 1, and the unranked team beats the team at 15, like there you go, you put the team that beat them ahead. But so often you see like the team that's at 15 or 12, they drop 10 spots to like 23 or 22, 25,
and the other team still isn't ranked,
and the other team still isn't ranked, or maybe is ranked below them at like 25. It's like you just saw them play. And so, and especially when we're now looking towards the top of these rankings, I find that Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, those are probably the teams that should be closer to the top instead of Clemson, instead of Alabama. I mean, Alabama's looked really good. Clemson, they almost lose and they fall to number 2. It's like no other team in the top 5 has had a scare like that this entire season. Why don't we just shift everyone above Clemson?
Well, because Mac Brown is the greatest coach of all time, Will, and we have to respect him. And we have this old timers club out there where it's like, oh, because he was a great coach one time, now we're supposed to treat him as if he's a great coach every time. And anytime he puts up a good fight, well, Clemson survived a really good scare from a fantastic football coach. I don't care how good of a football coach you are. Clemson should not be winning a 1-point game against North Carolina, but that's the mentality of so many voters, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, the mentality that is that if you are ranked in a certain position and you win, no matter how you look, then you stay there. And I think that's where the really big issue is. It's like you should look at the 4 or 5 games that these teams have played and rank them off that and not adjust a preseason poll. And I think that's what we're starting to see with a lot of these teams is that they're ranked either higher or lower because of adjustments based on a poll that was based on 0 games being played. So like Georgia's beating Notre Dame. Who is Alabama beating? Why isn't Georgia ahead of Alabama? Mm-hmm. And not to say that Alabama, then you don't hold that same mentality. Like, okay, now Georgia, all they have to do is win and Alabama can't jump them. No, if Alabama, gets better wins throughout the season, which they likely will do because they're in the West and have a tougher schedule, then you jump them at the appropriate time. But if you're basing it on what we've seen, Georgia should be ranked ahead of Alabama. They've had a better win.
Well, and my whole thinking is like, is Oklahoma ever going to lose this year? I just don't see Oklahoma losing this year. And if Oklahoma's not going to lose, I mean, they're going to go play Texas, and I think they're going to beat Texas. They're going to go to Oklahoma State. They're going to beat Oklahoma State. And if Oklahoma doesn't lose, right now they're ranked number 6. Are we never going to move them up? Because their offense has looked unbelievable all season long. I mean, they've just been blowing teams away. 49-31, 70-14.
Who's number 5?
Number 5 is LSU.
LSU.
So we got Alabama, Clemson, really Georgia, good. Ohio State, LSU, Oklahoma. Auburn is 7. And let's talk about Auburn now since we're looking at these rankings. And Auburn is number 7, and Auburn has beaten Oregon, Texas A&M on the road. Oregon was a road neutral game. They held Tulane, who clearly can put up points this year. They held them to 6 points. They just blew the doors off Mississippi State. And now they're going to Florida, and they have the hardest schedule in the nation. I mean, there is no doubt that if Auburn continues to win, they're going to be ranked because they would have to beat LSU, Georgia, and Alabama. So it's a moot point to even talk about them being ranked number 7, but I want to anyway because I think that they've beaten the best teams, and they've looked good. I mean, other than the Oregon game, which was close until the very end, they need a last-second touchdown. They've looked good. they're 3-point dogs or 3-point favorites going to Florida this week.
Road favorites, baby.
I love Auburn this week. I love Auburn. Florida has not impressed me. Auburn has. I have Auburn -3. I think they go into town. I think they get the job done. This is like the least of their tests. They have 3 bigger tests coming down the line. I think they take care of business in this one because I think they are that good. I think they're a really good football team this year.
I'm totally with you. You're taking the words right out of my mouth. I guess you could say maybe you're worried about them like overlooking Florida at this point, but I mean, Florida is ranked at 10 in the country, so they probably shouldn't be overlooking Florida. But again, I think that ranking is very inflated based on where they were preseason, and I get that both teams are 5-0. They're both SEC teams. They should be close, but I don't see this game being close at all. I mean, every step of the way, Auburn has just taken care of business. Bo Nix is looking much better throwing the ball. He has way more confidence. That Auburn defense is suffocating. I think at one point it was 49-0 in that Mississippi State game. I had Auburn last week at -10.5. That was like the only easy cover I had the whole week. Thank you, Auburn. So I'm with you. Just Florida, I think they're like a fraudulent team. I'm ready to call them frauds. I don't think they're all that good. I think they're maybe like a top 25 team, but a top 10 team, get out of here.
Let's go down the schedule real quick because I just want to point this out to you as we're talking about this. Florida ranked 10, Auburn ranked 7. So Auburn is 3 spots ahead of Florida. Florida has beaten Miami, Tennessee, Martin, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Towson. Auburn has beaten Oregon, Tulane, Kent State, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. I mean, it's not even close. You can't begin to compare.
And even Miami should be a better win, and it's not. It is not a good win, and they barely beat Miami.
Yeah, and they barely beat Kentucky. I mean, they've blown out Tennessee, Towson, and Tennessee Martin, but like, so what? I mean, that doesn't impress me. You know what I mean?
The only game they looked good was against Tennessee, and I had Tennessee +14 in that game, thinking it would be closer.
Ironic, the first game that Felipe Franks doesn't play.
Yeah. But even in that Kentucky game, like they were down, I think, like 14-0 or like 21-3. Maybe not that much. 17-0 maybe. It was bad. Their defense has holes. That offensive line has holes. So yeah, I think Auburn wins easily. I'm glad.
What do you got on it?
I got 20. I mean, that's for me. That jumped out. I've got a lot of these. Again, these are favorites on the road where I think because they're going on the road, the spreads are just so much smaller than they should be. And I get it's college football and these road environments can be very difficult. And they are college kids, and the travel and the crowd and the pressure and even the refs, like they can all work against you. But you just look at 2 football teams and ask yourself, which team is the better team? And a lot of these spreads are just way, way too low. So that's one of the road favorites. I got another road favorite. Let's head to the Big 12. I got Oklahoma State at Texas Tech. Oklahoma State -10. I think this is another spot where 10 points just isn't enough. I think usually this would be too high because Texas Tech is usually a pretty decent football team. That's just not the case this year. Oklahoma State is 5-0 against the spread this season, and I just don't see any reason to go against them now. And I think the only argument would be like, oh, they're going on the road in conference game, usually a big game. That's fine. But we saw Oklahoma State hang with Texas. And I think Texas is a pretty good football team. And Texas Tech on the other side has just looked miserable. They got stomped by Oklahoma. Like, I think if Oklahoma State plays Oklahoma, they don't win that game, but they at least keep it, like they are at least scoring touchdowns.
It goes over 71.5, right?
Oh, it definitely goes over 71.5. And they're actually going to put up some points. And maybe it's like, 45-31 or something. Not what was it, like
55-16.
55-16. I mean, that's 39 points.
They kicked 3 field goals. All I needed was 2 touchdowns, guys. I need 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal, not 3 field goals and 1 touchdown. Bad Texas Tech. Bad Texas Tech.
They're I mean, it's not your usual Texas Tech team. And I think this Oklahoma State team it shouldn't have any problem scoring, and they've actually looked better on defense than they usually do. Mm-hmm. So I think 10 points is pretty pretty easy here. So I've got 20 on that as well.
Wow. Yeah. See, I'm staying away from that game, but I do think that Texas Tech is by far the worst team. They lost to Arizona 28-14, but Khalil Tate actually played in that game. If Khalil Tate hadn't played and it had been Gunner or whatever his name was, who played against UCLA, I would call that the most pathetic loss in the nation this year. That'd be more pathetic than Kansas beating Boston College at home by 24. Because that Arizona team was dreadful the other night. Will and I sat there and watched Arizona versus UCLA, and we were just pulling our eyes out. And more than 10 times, we turned and looked at each other and said, why are we still watching this? Like, what else can we go do? And unfortunately, we just couldn't like find anything else that was more worthwhile. You know, when you already have the beers in the fridge, there's really no reason to go out and get more beers. So we were just like, I guess we're just going to sit here and we're just going to suffer through this. And it was horrible. So had Texas Tech lost to Arizona with that quarterback by 2 touchdowns, I'd be like, yo, this 10 points is a joke. But because it is the Big 12, because it is a conference game, I'm just going to stay away from it. But I totally would side with you if I was going to make a play on this game.
Yeah, and 10 is a little high, but man,
yeah,
I think Oklahoma State it takes care of business. I mean, they're 5-0 against the spread. There's just they've just been overlooked this entire season, and they're a pretty good football team. Like. Yeah. They lost to Texas by 6 points, and they had a chance to like get a touchdown at the end. So I mean, they were in it. They're pretty good. All right,
let's jump to the Canes game. Let's do it. Let's do Canes. I only have 3 games left. After Canes, you run the rest of the show, Will. But let's jump to the Canes.
Let's do it.
And as always, the Canes game is sponsored by Caneswear. They've got the best selection of Miami Hurricanes gear by far. We're talking hats, jerseys, shirts you can't find anywhere else. They've got brand new Adidas apparel, plus their own custom clothing, football, baseball, basketball, and so much more. You name it, they got it. So head to caneswear.com or visit the storefront in Davie off University Drive in the Arrowhead Shopping Center. Will, Virginia Tech is a bad football team this year. And something that I noticed from Virginia Tech in all these previous years is like every time Miami goes to Virginia Tech, and even if they're having a down year, Miami beats the crap out of Virginia Tech. I was at the game last year when Miami went to Virginia Tech. And, like, I'm just, like, looking around at these poor, sad Hokies who are just like, why am I here? Why am I here? And I went with my sister, who's a Virginia Tech alumni. And, you know, it should have been such a better game. And it was terrible. And Virginia Tech was a bad team last year. I mean, they needed to schedule a game late in the season just to become bowl eligible. They almost lost that game, which is so pathetic. And I don't think they ever recovered. And so I think this year, I mean, they just lost to Duke. They just lost to Duke, who Duke is okay, but they just lost to Duke 45-10. I mean, there's just nothing going on for this Virginia Tech team right now. They almost lost to Furman, beat them 24-17. They almost lost to Old Dominion, only beat them 31-17. Remember last year they did lose to Old Dominion. Boston College got them by a touchdown, but that looked like an okay win at the time. But since then, we all know how Boston College has actually been. Boston College is not a good football team. And the Canes just had a week to plan. And Manny Diaz is feeling the heat right now. I mean, look, UNC clearly gets up for the bigger games. UNC went wire to wire with Clemson, very well could have won that game. So, the UNC loss, it still sucks because they lost to Appalachian State. But UNC could be undefeated right now. We could be sitting there going, holy crap, this is a great team. I mean, they could have beaten Appalachian State. They got their field goal blocked at the end. They could have beaten Clemson. If they win those 2 games, we have a completely different feel on that. We looked horrible against Central Michigan. Horrible. Not even close to being like a Division I ACC Coastal King type team. Like it was a joke. Beat them by 5. And I think that Manny knows how big this game is. You have to come out. You got to get this big Coastal win. Keep the Coastal hopes alive. And I think that you got to just decimate this team. I think you have to kill Virginia Tech this week. They are a bad football team. If Duke can beat them by 35, you need to be able to beat them by 35 too. Otherwise, the fan base, if this is a one-possession game, the fan base is going to be relentless. It's going to be relentless because this should not be a one-possession game. We need to figure out how to put the ball in the end zone. That has been our biggest problem all year. We move the ball up and down the field. We just do not put it in the end zone. We need to score like crazy this week. And I think that because we had the bye, I think we're going to come out fired up. I think Virginia Tech is just dead. I think they're done. I think that they are the bottom of the Coastal. They're the bottom. Them and Georgia Tech, I mean, you just have a toss-up for that because neither team is very good. Miami is favored by 14 here. Because they're the Canes, I'm only putting 10 on it. But I do have Miami minus 14. And I don't think that that's a ridiculous number playing against a Virginia Tech team that they had their way with last year. Miami's team this year is better than last year's team, and Virginia Tech's team this year is worse than last year's team. And it's a home game. Like, let's right this ship and feel good about the rest of conference play.
Man, I want to agree with you, but I just haven't seen anything from this Miami team that tells me they're going to cover 2 touchdowns. Like, nothing. There's nothing I have seen yet that makes me think that we're not at that level of Virginia Tech.
I disagree with that, because Florida is better than any of these teams, and UNC is better than any of the teams that Virginia Tech played. Like, if we would have lost by 3 touchdowns to UNC,
you're giving Virginia Tech crap, like, oh, they barely beat Old Dominion 31-17, and they barely beat Furman 21-17. Like, we just put up 17 points against Central Michigan. Like we're not looking good either. And for that reason, I am on the under, because the only confidence I have in this game is that, like, Miami has a really good defense. That's it. I don't trust their offense. I don't trust Virginia Tech's offense whatsoever. Like you said, 10 points against Duke. I could see Virginia Tech getting shut out in this game. I could see this being like 24-0 or like 23-3, 31-7, 31-0. I don't know. I don't see a lot of points in this game. Unless you're really onto something and this is going to be like a Rutgers style game where you just come out and pummel the other team to get your kinks out on offense. But you would think that would have happened against Central Michigan and not an in-division rival this late in the season. So I think defensively, I'm there. I don't see Virginia Tech scoring, so that reason I'm going to go under the 47 points. I don't know where these points would come from. And if we're giving up points to Virginia Tech, that's a very bad look. So kind of like what you're saying, this has to be a dominant win. And I think it can be just by looking at the defense. You know, saying, okay, the defense just has to do what it's been doing and be one of like the top 10, 15 defenses in the country, and just don't let Virginia Tech score. Keep them under 10 points. And I don't see this Miami offense, going into the high 30s, definitely not cracking 40 unless you're really onto something here. I just don't see that. So I've got 10 on this under 47.
Cool. Yeah, 10 on each there. I agree with you. I don't think that there's going to be many points unless somehow Miami's offense puts the ball in the end zone, which the way the offense has looked, the only thing's missing is putting the ball in the end zone. And as a Detroit Lions fan, I feel that. Like, I watched that team fumble twice within the 5-yard line. So on Sundays, I get to watch that bullshit. And then on Saturdays, I get to watch the Miami shit. And it's like, come on, put the ball in the end zone. Like, you can move the ball so well. All of a sudden, you get into the red zone and you just clam up. And I don't get it. So Miami's got to be better on offense. I think they worked out kinks. Honestly, I think Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech is the Rutgers of the Big Ten, but Virginia Tech might be like the Indiana, where like, I guess Indiana's looked okay this year, but then again, I don't think Michigan State's very good. But
how about Illinois?
Let's find that Big Ten team that this can be. I really wanted it to just be freaking Rutgers, but I think Virginia Tech is just that bad this year. Like, I think this is one of those teams that just they need another year of recovery. I mean, they were so bad last year too, and like Miami gets up for these games normally. I mean, it's weird that I think our senior year Virginia Tech went to Hard Rock and beat Miami. But then all the other years since, like every time you go, I've been to Blacksburg twice since 2014, and we've walloped Virginia Tech, like walloped them. When Virginia Tech thought they were going to be a good football team, Miami just like, it was like 38-3 the one year, and then I forget what the score last year was. But I just remember
give me 38-3.
I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to beat the doors off this team because I don't think they're very good. Having the bye week, I think, was huge before this game because they had to sit there and think about the fact that they beat Central Michigan 17-12. And Manny knows that this is a very unforgiving fan base right now. He needs to do better. He needs to. Otherwise, he's done. Like, that's just how everybody's thinking already, and we're 4 games into the freaking season. So blow this team away and make people happy for a week.
What was that tweet that someone tweeted out? It was like, Virginia Tech loses to Duke 45-10. You know what that means, Canes fans? We're going to play them close.
Yeah, I love it. I loved it. I think that was Roman Kane. I love it. So good.
That's I could see that being possible. I can see this being a close game, unfortunately. Like, I haven't seen anything from the Canes that tells me it's going to be a blowout. So and you're looking at historically. In the past, we usually perform pretty well against Virginia Tech. But just looking at the makeup of this team right now, what they've been able to accomplish, I am seeing a lower scoring, closer game. And if it's 38-3, I will be ecstatic. That's what I want.
Here's my thing. If I'm looking at this, the way I always look at it with historically is, let's say you're playing a team like Florida State. That's our rival. If we're favored by 14 this year, no matter how bad Florida State is, I'm taking Florida State plus 14. Because historically, those games are close. Historically. That's just how those games go. But with Virginia Tech, there's no such pressure. And I just think that when these two teams play, the better team beats the other team pretty easily. And I think this year Miami's just the better team. Virginia Tech looks lost.
I hope so, man.
So,
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I'm hoping and praying over here.
I see it. I only have 2 games left, Will. So you just take us around the NCAA.
All right, let's go. Let's do Air Force at Navy. Principal play here. I only got $10 on it, but when this happens, you gotta take this here. Under 44.5. It's just two teams that run the option, so the clock goes. And then more importantly than the clock and that they're running the ball is that both of these defenses face the option in practice every day. So they're ready for it. They're ready to defend the option than most schools that they play. And if they try throwing the ball, I know Navy has actually been throwing the ball not so badly this year. But if they're going to take more risks down the field, that opens up to turnovers, interceptions, all that fun stuff. So I just think when you have two option teams playing against each other, unless the under is like 38, 39, but for this we have 44.5, I am gonna hop on this here. Only $10 here. I haven't watched these two teams play that much. I watched the Air Force Colorado game, and Air Force looked pretty good. But yeah, they just run the ball and they have long possessions, and that's how both of these teams operate. So I don't see why we're going to get a high scoring affair here.
24-21 final score. Will loses.
Oh no, don't do that to me.
I stay away. I mean, I didn't even look at the Air Force Navy game.
Yeah, it's just $10 principal. I could be wrong. I feel like I have to hop on that when I see it. All right, let's move to another principal play. Oof.
You're looking at Bowling Green?
Are you with me here? Can you do this with me?
I can't.
Oh,
you're doing Bowling Green?
5.5 points. That is higher than the under I just took. 44.5 is the under Air Force Navy, and Notre Dame is favored by more than that at 45.5 points at home against Bowling Green. I've only got $10 on it, but if I missed out on Bowling Green the 1 week, and Phil took it, and it's that jealousy. It's like, hey, who's with my Bowling Green over there? Was that you, Phil? Like, you can't do that. That's my Bowling Green. So, I just got to roll with it. I got to roll with Notre Dame here. Very good chance Bowling Green doesn't score. Very good chance. They didn't score against Kansas State, and Kansas State's defense is not on the same level of Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a team that plays much better at home anyway. So there's no reason for me why Notre Dame can't get into the 50s, why they can't get into the 60s. They've only had one cupcake game so far this year against New Mexico, and that was 66-14. So they would cover the 45.5, and I'm pretty sure New Mexico would obliterate Bowling Green. So this is one of those ones. It's high, it's risky, but you got to hop on it, and you will be rewarded. So I'm only going 10 because it is so high. But I still like the pick. I still like it.
See, my whole thinking now is Notre Dame is into the heart of their schedule. They're starting to play some really good teams. We saw them beat Virginia last week. We saw them play Georgia the week before. Games are starting to get more serious for Notre Dame. So what scares me about a spread this big is if they jump out 35-0 and it's 35-0 at half, their starters are never seeing the field again. And that's what hurt me in the Penn State game last week against Maryland. Clifford just came out of the game and never played again. And the rest of the offense didn't move the ball that well after that. And I worry if you have 35-0, maybe Notre Dame only scores 10 points the entire second half, and then that ends up biting in the ass. So I worry a bit about that because they don't want to get any players hurt against, Bowling Green High School. You just don't want that to
Notre
happen.
Dame's backups can stop Bowling Green.
Well, so I agree, but sometimes they just don't look as good as they should.
Yeah, but if I'm a Notre Dame player and I'm like a freshman or a sophomore who isn't getting that much playing time, and I get like a half, let's say a full half of football to go out and show my coach, put me in, against USC, against Stanford, against Michigan. I'm balling out against Bowling Green. I'm going nuts. That doesn't scare me at all.
Okay.
I'm with it. I'm 45.5. I'm right.
45-0 final because second half there was only 10 points. We'll see if Will's scared then.
If it's 45-0 final, and then the other game, it's 24-21.
You know what that means for this week.
Oh, that's a. I don't even want to speak that into existence because that's literally what was happening last week. Just these like 0.5 point, 1 point misses on over-unders and spreads just left and right. And it killed us. But we're through it. We don't need to talk about it. I'm sorry. You should be sorry.
I am sorry.
All right. Let's keep it. Let's go to Big 12. Another road favorite that I really like here. Texas on the road against West Virginia. It's at 11. So I'm taking Texas minus 11. Got 15 on this. I think this is just another, I don't need to keep saying this, but I think, wow, that team's going on the road. That's right. The spread just gets smaller by teams going on the road, and usually going to play West Virginia on the road is a difficult thing to do, but it just isn't this season. They just haven't looked that good. They barely scrapped out wins against Kansas and James Madison. While Texas is a contender to win the Big 12, they hung with LSU in that game, and LSU could be the best team in the country. We don't know. I would not be surprised if LSU beats Alabama, beats Auburn. They look that good. So for a Texas team and remember, Texas beat Georgia last year in what was that? The Cotton Bowl. So
I don't remember.
the Sugar Bowl. I forget which bowl. One of the bowls, and I know it's a bowl, and I know that's last year. But for a team that's kind of in the national conversation, who's can win the Big 12 and against a West Virginia team that is usually good, usually puts up a good fight, and usually 11 at West Virginia, you don't want to touch that. But this is just a down West Virginia team. It's sort of like the Texas Tech play. These teams aren't where they usually are. Relative to other teams in the Big 12. So I've got 15 on it. My only really worry here is Texas does have Oklahoma next week. And so they could kind of be overlooking Virginia or West Virginia, especially because West Virginia is having this down year. They might not give enough attention to this game, but I still think they win by 2 touchdowns, and I like the minus 11.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet. Once again, I only have 2 other games.
I'm not overthinking it.
One on money, so I needed to stay away from
there's no reason to overthink this. Texas is a much better team than West Virginia. It shouldn't be close. Texas should handle West Virginia here. And I'm making a lot of these plays, and yeah, maybe one of them gets upset, but I think most of them are gonna hold for me. So there is that. Let's see.
Can I speak now? Let me do one. I don't like listening to you all this much.
All
You're
right.
not that much
Hey,
fun.
you're the one that tossed.
I did, and then I
over.
thought about what I had done, and I just am not a fan of it. I'm not a big Will fan. I'm not a big Will guy. So I want to go to actually a night game, and I have 2 bets on this game. Michigan State at Ohio State, Will.
Oh,
Maybe?
yeah. All
Okay.
day.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that we were going to be in agreement on this.
All day.
I have Ohio
favorite.
State. Oh. They're 20-point road dogs, Will. They're 20-point road dogs.
Oh, wait. This is Ohio State's at home. That's right.
This is at Ohio State. This is at the horse.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, home. I'm going with the favorite here. This is a week for favorites.
Ohio State minus 20. I got 20 on that.
As do I.
And Ohio State 49.5, the over. I got 20 on that.
Yeah, I don't know about that over.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to put up Ohio State themselves.
Did you watch the Cincinnati game?
Did I watch the Cincinnati game?
Ohio State, Cincinnati. I had the over in that game, and they won 42-0. And I was just like, damn.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, Michigan State against Indiana, that was a joke. I mean, Michigan State gets to be ranked because they get to be ranked, because they have Michigan State, because they're Sparty, because blah, 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 blah.
Their defense could not stop Indiana.
They couldn't stop Indiana.
Like, I don't even know how Michigan State ended up winning that game. And they got like a touchdown, like a fumble recovery touchdown at the very last second to make the score not look as bad. They won that game by 3 points.
Well, they won that game by 3 points, Will. And not only that, they needed a touchdown with like 10 seconds left just to win. They were losing by 4 going into that. They needed that just to win. I mean, it was a joke. That was a terrible football game. I have the season under for Indiana, and I was so worried that I was about to blow it right there. Michigan State just hasn't looked good. Look, they beat the doors off of Northwestern, but Northwestern isn't good. I don't care what they did against Wisconsin. That's just a fluke game. Ohio State beat Nebraska 48-7. I see a very similar game this time. And honestly, they might beat Michigan State by more. Michigan State probably at most scores 14 points, but all I need them to do is score 7, and I'm confident that this goes over. I'm confident. It's at 49.5. I think Ohio State puts up at least 45 in this game. So I have 20 on both of them. I think this is one of those games where Ohio State just does not stop scoring, and this is a home game. I mean, they went to Nebraska and did that. This week's a home game. This could be 28-0 in the first quarter. Seriously, this could be one of those just joke games because Michigan State is that bad. I mean, Michigan State has looked terrible all season long, with the exception of one game against Northwestern, and I'm not giving them any credit for that because Hunter Johnson still infuriates me. So yeah, these are two of my big $20 bets. Ohio State minus 20, Ohio State, Michigan State over 49.5. Is it still? Oh, it's at 49. Well, so I'm taking it at 49, and now I don't have to stress. So it's 42-7. I get a push.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I've been on Ohio State almost every week. They're 4-1 against the spread this season. They are, what you said, they're ranked number 5? Like,
yeah.
How is this team not in one of the top 4 spots? And I know the playoff ranking has not come out yet, but it's insane to me. Like, this team is probably the best team in the country. It's one of the best teams in the country for sure. And I mean, they should be 1, 2, or 3. They absolutely blow out teams. They went on the road, just stomped Nebraska. That was another easy cover for me last week. It's just, I mean, when Ohio State played Indiana, they won by 41. When Michigan State plays Indiana, they need a last-second touchdown. And then they do win by 9 eventually. But they essentially, to me, won by 3 points. So, yeah, until they let me down, until they show me that this, like, they aren't capable of, playing defense or offense, like stutters. Until I see that, there's no reason to just keep riding this Ohio State cover train. I mean, at 20 points, that's not even 3 touchdowns. They could win this by 5 touchdowns. I agree. This is, yeah, and you're right with Michigan State. They should not be ranked whatsoever. This is not a top 25 football team.
No, and I think, like, when I look at, like, what is Vegas doing? Because, like, you always want to fade the public as much as you can. When I look at what is Vegas doing here, they know Michigan State's name carries a lot of weight. So by putting it as a 20-point game, it's a big rivalry game, all that crazy stuff, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, Ohio State is that good this year, and Michigan State is that bad. So they probably are thinking a lot of people are going to be throwing money at Michigan State this week, which, if that's the case, Vegas is going to make a boatload because Ohio State is going to win this game by so many points. So many points.
Yeah, I tend to not look at the public.
Well, that's not good.
Too much because it's like you do want to fade the public, but sometimes you don't want to overthink it, especially a week like this where last week was atrocious and teams weren't really doing what we thought they would do. I just think this is a return to normalcy. This always happens after the week where things go crazy. You kind of have that return. And so I'm okay, even if all these favorites are like very public. Like that's fine. Like UCF -4, that supposedly has 68% of the action. Mm-hmm. That's fine by me. I'm not like that's cool because I've seen UCF play, I've seen Cincinnati play, and you're right there with me. Like that line is just too small. So Oklahoma State -10, that's 65% is on that. Trying to find some of these other ones. Auburn, that's now gone down to 2.5. Good thing we got it at 3. I think that just changed.
Why is that a good thing we got it at 3? We wanted it at 2.5, don't we?
Oh, that's true. Oh, 2.5 it is. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking there.
Yikes.
So it, the only one that does. Oh no, even even the Notre Dame game minus 45.5, 62% of the action is coming on the Irish.
Yeah.
Texas minus 10.5, 68% of the action. And again, I'm not thinking I'm going to go undefeated here.
Oh, I am.
And not all of these favorites will cover, but I think when you take 6 or 7 of them, especially, it's not like I'm picking every single one. I'm picking out the ones that I like. I'm going to feel pretty good. Yeah, Ohio State minus 20. It's got 61% of the action.
How much do you have on Ohio State minus 20?
I got 20, man. I don't see why I should stop betting on Ohio State. They're like my only sure thing each week.
All right. How many games do you have left? I have 1 left. How many do you have left?
1, 2. I think I got 3.
All right. Rattle off 2, and then hopefully you have the same last one.
All right. Let's go to the ACC. Another
UNC minus 10.5
favorite. Oh man, it was at minus 10 last night, but I guess we can roll with 10.5. That's okay to me. My first thought was
10. You're good. You're cool.
Okay. I mean, my first thought with UNC this week was going to be like, oh, they are going to be so over inflated with this near Clemson win. This was going to be a 21-point spread at Georgia Tech, but it's only 10. I mean, I'm sorry. I like this. Georgia Tech lost to Temple last week. They lost to Citadel the week before. And UNC is an up and down team, but Appalachian State is better than Georgia Tech.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we have to worry about them not coming to play. Like, they don't need to play a great game to cover 10 points. Georgia Tech is that bad. They are the Rutgers of the ACC. Mm-hmm. You took Temple last week. That was one of your wins. So, yeah, and I think people might think, okay, well, it's going to be a letdown game after that Clemson win. You could look at it that way, but they didn't beat Clemson. And I think if anything, you could look at it the other way, like, wow, if you're in that locker room, we just hung with like the defending national champs, number 1 ranked team. We were right there. We could have won. Like, that should build your confidence heading into a division matchup, and you have a real shot to win the Coastal this year. So, like, why not take it to a division opponent, especially one that's as easy to beat as Georgia Tech? I love this at 10. Yeah. I got 15 on it.
I completely agree. I don't have a bet on it. I just, like I said, I have 130 to work with. I don't want to go over so that we can play this the right way. But I will say, when I look at this game, Georgia Tech, here's what they've done this year. 14 against Clemson, 14 against USF, 24 against the Citadel, 2 against Temple. They're not going to score this game. I mean, they're just not going to score. At most, they get 7 points in this game. And yeah, this could be a letdown for UNC after such a great gut-wrenching performance last week. But this Georgia Tech team is that bad. 24-2. They got a freaking safety against Temple. And it's not like Temple didn't give them opportunities to score. Temple isn't all that great. Georgia Tech had plenty of opportunities to score. They just did not capitalize ever.
They lost to the Citadel.
Yeah. I think UNC wipes the floor with this team. One of the reasons I'll use as my excuse to stay away from it is just because UNC is coming off that huge game. But really, it's just because I liked another game more. So, yeah, I don't have anything on it, but I totally agree with your read on this.
All right, let me guess what that other game is, because I have one here. And again, I have a road favorite. Actually, no, this is home. Sorry.
Wow.
I was right the team first. But, yeah, this is actually home, which is fine. I think I'm done with my road favorites. And it wasn't like I went through, like, I'm only going to
I have one more road favorite.
Oh. Well, do you want to go ahead then? And I was just saying, like, I didn't go through looking. I'm going to take road favorites this week. I just looked at all the games, and it just so happened a lot of the bets I liked were like, why is this team only favored by this much? Like, the road value is not as high as it seems Vegas is making it out to be. So you go ahead. What's your road favorite? That's the theme of the week.
Washington minus 16.5. I got 10 on it.
Oh,
yeah. Of course that bothers you because you're a Stanford guy and Stanford sucks.
I've been betting against Stanford this season.
Look,
I've been fading Stanford like no other. I should have taken them Should have taken Oregon State last week. They covered.
Here's the deal. Stanford only lost to Oregon by 15. Washington's offense is better than Oregon's offense this year. Washington's offense has looked really good for most of this year. I mean, and their defense has been able to hold teams. I mean, they gave up 14 to USC. USC should have scored more, but is that bad offense, or did the defense just play really well to be able to shut them down? BYU, they held BYU to 19, put up 45 against them. BYU was having a pretty good year up until that point. I think that Stanford, oh man, dude, that game was so bad last week against Oregon State. They were up 21-7, and Oregon State is the bottom feeder of the Pac-12. I think Washington goes into Stanford, and I think they might win this game like 35-10. 35-7. I actually like this. I actually originally had 15 on this, and then you convinced me to take Maryland, but that's my take on that.
Yeah, this one for me I think is a really risky play. Just because Stanford keeps games close, even when they're never even when they're never in the game.
45-27 to UCF, 45-20 to USC, 21-6 to Oregon. When were they keeping those games close? Well,
the Oregon game's within your total right there. And that Oregon offense is a pretty high power. It's just what Stanford does is they like to hog the ball if they can, and a lot of times they'll score field goals.
They're not good enough this year.
No, I don't think they're good enough. But in what I've seen from this Washington team, especially having watched that USC game last week, they did not put USC away at all. They left the door open for USC to not only cover that, but to win the game. USC had its chances, and a couple plays here and there, and USC wins that football game.
And USC beat Stanford by 25.
You look at that pass interference.
Don't talk about that. No, we don't talk about that.
The end zone that was just completely a missed call. And I mean, USC should have had 7 there. Look, I hear you. I'm fading Stanford. I worry about this game because Stanford against Washington, especially when they're at home, I think they've beaten Washington. They always beat Washington at home. I mean, not like always, but I think the last like 3 or 4 years, they've like upset Washington when Washington is like, the team in the Pac-12 that's going to get to the playoffs or the highest ranked Pac-12 team. They kind of take it to Washington. So it's just one of those games where I see Washington winning, but 16.5 is just a little bit too high for me. And I do worry. I think Washington can dominate the game and win by 10 points. They can dominate the game and win by 14 points. I think you got to be careful here, Phil.
Well, I am being careful, and that's why I'm only putting 10. I'm hoping for a performance such as in 2016 when Washington beat Stanford 44-6 as 3.5-point favorites.
But that was on the road. Stanford was on the road, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I just want to throw it out there. But go ahead. What are your last 2 games? We're over an hour. What do you want for your last 2 games?
All right. I got my dog here. First, I think this is my only dog of the week, which is crazy because I usually like dogs better. No, it's a great thing. This week is chalk. This week is chalk. But this is a great dog. I only got 10 on it because I don't know why I'm trusting this team. But I got Northwestern plus 7.5. They're on the road.
I think Nebraska is going to kill Northwestern this week, dude.
Really?
Northwestern had their week last week. And I just don't like Nebraska as a team at all, so I'm not going to bet it. But I do feel like Hunter Johnson just cannot move the ball. And if Adrian Martinez can actually put up 21 points in this game, that might be enough to cover the spread.
Yeah, this is a risky one, but I just feel it's just kind of I don't know. I've got $10 on it only. I just don't see why Nebraska should be more than a touchdown favorite against any Power 5 team.
Rutgers?
Unless, that's what I said. I literally have it written down here. Unless it's Rutgers. That's it. Maybe
can we call this the Rutgers podcast moving forward? Can we just do that? I mean,
Scarlet Knights, presented to you by Scarlet Knight Insight.
Oh my God, dude, we got to get Stefan to change that. Stefan.
But you could name some other teams. Who else should Nebraska be favored by a touchdown?
They beat Illinois 42-30.
And I was gonna say you might say Illinois, but no. They didn't. They only beat Illinois by 4 points. So
this team was ranked coming into the year number 25. I mean, that's just such a joke.
They were ranked after losing a game too, I think.
Well, no, they were ranked after beating South Alabama 35-21 in a close game. It was a joke. Just a joke.
And that's And that's what I'm saying. Like, at least what I've seen from Northwestern is like they have a fight on defense and they will take it to a team. They're not going to back down and get walked all over. So, I mean, their offense is miserable, yes, but so is Nebraska's. And I just, these teams should be on a similar tier. So this 7.5 is just high. I think a lot of it comes from the Nebraska brand and that they're good this year somehow. I don't know how I don't know how that's still kicking around, but 7.5 points for a Northwestern team who says they can't pull out the win? Why can't Northwestern play? Yeah, okay. That's what you say. I like them to cover this. I've got 10 on.
Okay. What's your last game?
The last one. We've got Colorado at home against Arizona. They are 4-point favorites. Arizona is a mess. And I don't even care if Khalil Tate comes back. Like, they are a mess right now. And this Colorado team at home, I think, is pretty good. I think they're a solid team. They beat Nebraska. They beat Arizona State. Yeah, they lost to Air Force, but, Air Force can be tricky. So I see them winning by, probably a touchdown, maybe 10 points. I don't know if they're going to like blow Arizona out of the water, but they could.
They should.
This Arizona team is, I mean, I'm kind of speechless with them. You could say they played well on defense, but I don't think so. It's just UCLA shooting themselves in the foot over and over. And at least they have some senior leadership there at Colorado with Steven Montez, who can, like, at home, they're just going to get up for this game, I think. It's a very winnable game. In Colorado, they want to make a bowl. They want to head to the postseason. And if you can't really beat Arizona at home, then your bowl chances go down. So, I mean, they're not like one of the top teams in the Pac-12, but they're definitely not as low as I think a lot of people have them. They're right in the middle there. So I think they should beat Arizona easily. I got 15 on this one.
Cool. So, Will, you put all 200 out there this week.
I did? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I put out 130. We have all our money on the line this week, all our dollars.
This is what you do.
When after you're coming off a bad week, you just put it all out there, and if you lose it all, well, then you just disappear from the public eye for the rest of your life. All right, I'm going to run. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go through. Go run them.
I'm going to run down mine, and then Will do his. I only got 8 bets this week. UCF -4, Maryland -13.5, Iowa +3.5, Auburn -2.5, Miami -14, Ohio State -20, Ohio State over 49, Washington -16.5. Will.
I've got UCF -4 at Cincinnati, Maryland -13.5 at Rutgers, Oklahoma State -10 at Texas Tech. Utah State at LSU is going to go over 72.5. Got Air Force at Navy going under 44.5. Got Auburn -3 at Florida.
-2.5.
-2.5. That's right. Thank you, Phil. Got Notre Dame -45.5 versus Bowling Green. Yikes. Got Texas -11 at West Virginia. Got the under in the VT at Miami game. That's under 47. Got UNC -10 at Georgia Tech. Got Northwestern +7.5 at Nebraska. My only dog of the week, but I like it. I got Colorado -4 at home against Arizona. And then lastly, Ohio State -20 at home against the pitiful, miserable Michigan State Spartans.
And if you like this, Will, where can everybody just find us, listen to us, do all that fun stuff?
Yeah, you can find us on Canes Insight, their SoundCloud, everything they got going over there. And then we are also on iTunes at College Football Pick'em Pod. You can just search that in iTunes, subscribe on any podcast, on Spotify, on wherever you catch your podcast. And we're on Twitter at CF Pick'em Pod.
There you go. That's it. If you want to follow me for NFL or college football.
You got an NFL sharp over here.
I know. I'm killing it right now. I'm above 500 every week. People just keep dropping out of the top 10, and I just keep sitting right there at number 5, number 4.
Who's above you? I mean, they must be doing really well because it seems like every week
there's something really sketchy going on over there. Where there was this one guy who wasn't there for the first 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, halfway through last week, he popped up like 20 units above everybody else. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, where were his picks the first 2 weeks? Like, why all of a sudden does he count? It almost felt like he went back in and included the picks that he wanted to include. So I'm waiting for him to fall apart. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe it is totally legit, but his name wasn't there for 2 weeks.
Like, is he getting credit for picks from the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Didn't make before?
Yeah, he is. I mean, week 3.
You got it right in.
Week 3 ended, and I was ranked number 5, and I was disappointed because I was in the top 4. I dropped to number 5. And then all of a sudden, on like Wednesday, heading into week 4, I'm number 6, and there's this guy who's in first place, like 20 units ahead of everybody else. So I don't know how legit that is. A little confused. But I am ranked number 5 right now. If anybody's looking for money line dogs this week in the NFL, you can laugh at me, but I'm 6-2 right now. I like the Rams over the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. I like the Browns over the 49ers. I think the 49ers are pretenders. Odell can get shut down by Sherman all they want. But, yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll try tweeting out some stuff maybe for
I'm
NFL.
a Niner fan, and I agree with you.
Yeah, at Phil_Wood_Jr. Go follow me there. And you can just see me retweet every week that I'm in the top 10 of the Betting Pros accuracy competition. But other than that, that's it, right? That's all we got. We'll see you in week 7 when Will and I are just throwing monies all over.
This is going to be such a good week. Good vibes, positive vibes, good energy. It's going to be
doubling up.
Yeah, we might go undefeated here. What is that? How many picks did I have?
You had 13. 1, 2, 3, 4,
you had
5,
7
6,
or
7,
8?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, you had 13. I had 8. We're going to be 21-0, kids.
21-0. Let's go. All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye.